Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. If you're new here, my name is Elena and I am the homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos. Here on the channel, we talk about homeschooling and homemaking, faith and fitness, and all the things in between. And we talk about it kind of in an umbrella way, which, as you can see from the title of this video, is what we're going to talk about today, our goals in all of these kind of categories. Every month I like to sit down and kind of go over my goals, reflect on how the month before went, and just kind of check in with myself and do a mini reset, if you will. It also helps me kind of ground myself in what's important to me and get my priorities on track instead of feel like I'm flailing from one project to another. Now, I do have those moments still, but like I said, this is a big help in not having more of those moments and less of feeling grounded. This way I can feel more feeling grounded and less of these like chaotic moments. If you haven't caught any of my previous videos, goal setting and things like that, I will link the last one up here for you so you can kind of catch up if you wanted to and see what last month's goals were and how it kind of led into this one. We also filmed at the beginning of the year a fun video. My husband and I sat down and kind of did some family goals for ourselves, and so I will also link that for you. As usual, I have set goals in some major categories in my life. The first one is kind of my spiritual or faith walk. And last month I kind of set a very loose goal. I had started a new Read the Bible in a Month plan, but I wanted to take it a little slower and just kind of have the freedom, I guess, to kind of soak in the word when I wanted to. And so I gave myself permission to stop it. And that's exactly what I did. For this upcoming month, though, what I would like to do is go kind of in the complete opposite direction, sort of. So hang in here, if you will. For this month, I still want to continue growing in my relationship with Christ. I think that's my overarching view all the time, or my overarching goal, I should say, is to continue growing closer to Christ every day and every moment and every year and every month. But the way that I want to do that this month, or I want to try to continue in that relationship, is by being more intentional with my time that I'm spending with Him. So I don't think that I'm going to go back onto a reading plan. I have here and there started a couple of plans on the YouVersion Bible app, but I want to be intentional about carving out parts of my day to give to Him in either prayer or what I sometimes call like Christian self-help. These are basically nonfiction books that are faith-based or spiritual-based, however you want to say it. I do have a video where I went over my bookshelves behind me, and I was talking about some of my books and my book goals. And one shelf here holds a lot of my books, and so that part of my goal of reading goals was to pick up more of these books and read them. Now, I had hoped to do at least one a month, but so far I have not accomplished that. We are entering our 3rd month and I'm still on my 1st book. But this book is so good that I'm taking it a little slower, kind of just diving in. It really is making me think, and I want to give myself the permission to kind of just pour into it and not race through it just because I want to finish one book per month. So I am taking my time with this, but this is where this month's goals kind of come in, and I hope I'm not too confusing. So I had set a reading goal. I wanted to read one nonfiction book a month, but I want to be more intentional about the time I set up to read this book. So I don't have a set reading time anymore. We have kind of gotten away from quiet time, unfortunately, in our household, and I think that I'm going to set up a quiet reading time in our home, and this is when I'm going to be purposeful about picking up this particular book for me this month until I finish it, to read this. It's not going to be a very long time because, you know, we just have a lot of things that we're putting in our days sometimes. It's not the kind of lifestyle that we thrive in when we just pack in too many things. So I'm going to set up quiet reading time, and that's when I'm going to be reading this book. I'm also going to set up 2 other times in my day to be intentional about spending time with the Lord. So one intentional spot will be reading this book because this is something I really want to dive into. But the other 2 spots are going to just be my option. I am part of an online Bible study group, and that I know I've talked about it before on this channel. So they have a planned out Bible study for you, and it's meant to do in small increments every day. But I found that sometimes when I get into those books, I can do a couple of days at one time. So that will be an option for me, is to either sit down and do the Bible study, or you're reading their Bible study book, but you're also really diving in deeper into the actual Bible. And so that can be an option for me. The other thing is just diving into my Bible and reading and seeing what the Lord has for me there. Another option that I want to give myself is scripture journaling, or writing in my prayer journal or war binder, whatever you'd like to call it. These are just some options I want to give myself, but I want to be sure that I'm carving out specific times of the day. So one of the times of the day will be in the morning. I'm thinking our reading time may be sometime mid-afternoon, and then in the evening time right before I go to bed. So that's kind of what my overarching goal for my spiritual or faith portion is to have these 3 set times where I'm seeking out the Lord and just kind of sitting in His presence. The next category is my homeschooling, or our homeschooling, because I don't homeschool alone. I do homeschool with my kiddos. And so that goal was to declutter this certain homeschool area in our homeschool space. We homeschool all over the house, but there is one area where we house most of our curriculum and manipulatives and things like that. And it has become very messy very quickly. It has some sort of organization to it. It has, like, as you'll see, boxes and on a shelf, and it was my attempt to kind of get it organized. I don't have a big enough bookshelf to house all of this stuff, and I was just trying to make do with what I have and tidy it up as best as I could. But I think it's time that I go through these boxes more meticulously and pull out things that my youngest son is no longer using or will not need in the future, and pass it on to either someone else that is homeschooling or wants to homeschool, so that maybe they can use some of these items and it can go to a new home. So I want to go through that. I'm going to keep that goal because I didn't tackle it. Instead, what we did do is we did start decluttering and tackling a couple of other spaces in our home. But for our homeschool goal, I really want to be mindful of what we have and what we need, and using the really cool tools that we have, because when it's overflowing this way, I don't even realize some of these great items we have that I wanted to use. To be sure that we are decluttering, another thing that I want to do is kind of time block our week. We have time blocked our day a little bit, and if you'd like to see a video on that, let me know down in the comments below, and I will share with you how I time blocked our day and how it kind of changes season to season for us. But I want to sit down and time block the week a little bit more. I found that it worked really well for both myself and my kids when they knew to expect certain things on certain days, and sometimes we have appointments that always happen on certain days, and so it just does well for my kiddos, especially my youngest, who's on the spectrum, to have a set routine and set schedule. He really thrives on knowing what's coming next. I like to sit down and just kind of map that out a little bit better. This isn't a strict routine that I want to set up, because those don't seem to work well for us at all. This is just more of a rhythm, and what the difference in those two things mean to me is that instead of marking down minute by minute what we're gonna do, or even hour by hour, we're gonna set out chunks of, on this day is when we tend to run our errands, if we have any. On this day is like our stay-at-home baking home ec day, that kind of thing. And this is the day we're gonna do field trips, or we're gonna do appointments or things like that. So life gets lifey. You're gonna have things that life throws at you that's gonna derail that some weeks, and that's totally okay. But I wanna have something set up so that the majority of the weeks are running a little bit more smoothly. My next category is my fitness category. Now, I do have a couple of other videos on this. I know I keep pointing to a ton of other videos, but if you haven't already, maybe you should subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can see all the fun things that we talk about on this channel, because we do really hit all of these things I'm talking about. My fitness, I do have a couple, like I was saying, a couple of videos on my journey and the different journeys that I've taken. And so right now I am in the middle of a 90-day goal type thing. I like to set things out, as you can see, in time frames. It just really works well for my brain. But for my fitness last month, I wanted to just get back into working out and making that a routine. I wanted to be sure that I was working out 3 to 4 times a week, and just As a quote unquote regular person, finding the time to work out can be difficult. But then when you add in that you're a mom and a wife and you homeschool, it can get a little bit difficult to find the time to do that. So I was able to make it a priority and stick to working out more times than not. I'm really proud that I made that a priority and that my kiddos saw. I always like when my kids can see that I've set a goal and that I've made it a priority, and they can kind of just learn from seeing my example, because it really does rub off on them. My kids get very excited when they see that mommy has a goal and she's going after it, and it motivates the entire family that way, and it's so great. And this is another reason why setting goals for yourself and setting goals for your family are so great, because you can work on it together as a team and root for one another. This month, I want to continue on with working out and making it a routine, but now instead of just making it a routine, I want to make sure that I am at least 80% accurate with what my workout schedule is that I set for myself. This is something that I have learned from Jordan Syatt. I will try to remember to link his YouTube down below. I don't think that he's posting quite as often on there, but there is a ton of great information on there. I think he's more active on Instagram. I'm not very active on Instagram the past few months. Here's where you're going to find us on YouTube. But he introduced this idea to me of having 80% accuracy, and that really ties into consistency. So consistency is going to show you the results. You can go on a new diet every Monday, but none of them are going to work if you don't have consistency and you don't stick to it, right? And I know, because I've done it. I've been there and I've done it, and I've done it again and again, and it didn't work. So I want to be more consistent in my goals. March, there are 31 days, and if I'm setting up myself to do 4 times a week a workout, that means that on the days I've scheduled to work out, I'm actually working out. And that means, though, on the days that I'm scheduled to have a rest day or a non-workout day, that counts as my consistency as well, or that counts towards my 80% as well. I'm aiming to work out 4 times a week and be 80% consistent at it. Also, working out 4 times a week really helps me with my mental health, and so I think that that is just an added bonus, and something that I want to keep reminding myself of, is that I not only feel better physically when I'm working out, but mentally as well. I feel like I'm able to kind of take some of the things life may throw at us. I also want to be counting my macros this month. I go back and forth with counting macros. Sometimes I just give myself a mental break of doing it. Other times there has been other stuff in life that happened that has kind of derailed me from it. And sometimes, honestly, I just get lazy and I go off my whole fitness regime. So I'm not counting macros at all. But I'm going to get back to counting macros. I do have some bigger overarching, like I said, 90-day goals, because this is the time I'm going to do it. So I really want to hit these goals, and counting macros, I think, is going to help me along the way. So I'm going to get back to counting macros and then hit that 80% consistency for working out. And then the last part, or last section area that I am going to talk about our goals, I almost said fitness again, our goals are our finances. So last month I admitted that we had not really paid as much attention to our finances in the previous months. Christmas, holidays, birthdays, all these things just kind of happened, and I was not as diligent as I should have been. I have felt the repercussion from that, and I don't want to feel that anymore. So I wanted to pay more attention to our finances and just really know where every dollar and every penny was going to, and I wanted to be sure that I was tracking meticulously. I didn't track as detailed as I wanted to. I did track more, but it can be better. I have a game plan set up that will work for me of how I want to track and how I'm going to be sure to be checking in with myself more on a daily basis, because that's what I want to do. I want to go back to knowing on a daily basis where our dollars are, instead of kind of recapping the week or recapping the month. So I find when I'm just recapping the whole month, it is harder on me. One, it just takes longer, but also just mentally it's harder for me too. It doesn't, seeing the money on more of a daily basis, I am keeping in mind what our goals are financially, and I feel a little better when we get to the end of the month, and I recap it, because it doesn't seem as such a surprise to me, because I kind of already knew and was checking in with myself and with my budget along the way. One of the biggest things in our budget and finances that has kind of taken the biggest hit or has changed the most is our grocery budget. I'm sure that is the same in a lot of households. Grocery budgets, just like everywhere else, are just rising and increasing, and it is tough. We have 3 kiddos, and like I said, we homeschool, so I am feeding my kids breakfast, lunch, dinner, and what feels like a million snacks throughout the day, and it gets expensive. My oldest is a teenager and he eats like a teenage boy. My youngest is not a teenager, but I feel like he also eats like a teenage boy somehow. We are just a family of healthy eaters. We have some really good appetites, including me. So I really need to look at our grocery budget again and kind of see where I can make some tweaks, or what's working, what's not working, and how to make that work for us. That's something, I feel like a whole different video, so I may do that at another time, is kind of sit down with the camera as I'm thinking out my thoughts and figuring out how I'm going to attack the grocery budget and what's going to make sense for us. That is it for this month. So going in, this is brand new month. This is what I'm looking at. These are what the goals that I'm hoping to hit or I'm aiming for. I would love to know if you are setting monthly goals yet, or if you are doing them more on a quarterly basis, or if you're just like, you know, I don't need to set goals. I got it all by myself. I'm not good. Or maybe you're just taking a break, and that happens too, especially for us. Sometimes I can be like, you know what, I just can't want to. So that is perfectly fine too, if you need to just take a mental break and not do it. But let me know in the comments where you're at and how you're feeling with these things. Thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out with me and keeping me accountable on these goals and this kind of a monthly reset that we are doing here. I've seen the beginning of how I reset my month and review my previous month. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for being part of the family. It really means a lot to us. And if you're not, I would love for you to join part of our YouTube family. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and then again, you may want to hit the bell notification so that you are sure that you catch all of our inspiration amongst the chaos. Thanks so much for watching. I probably didn't hit record. YouTube tip: when you're making a video, make sure you hit record. Good tip.